My parents laughed as I was publicly disowned, so I let the truth burn everything they loved. Hi, I'm Eric, 29, and last night my entire family showed up at my office to beg for mercy. The same people who laughed when my mother called me a mistake in front of 300 wedding guests. This is the story of how I turned decades of humiliation into justice, not revenge. With 3 phone calls, 1 email, and the kind of receipts that could set a house on fire. Growing up, I learned early that my role in the family was to exist in the shadows. My older brother, Jude, golden child, cardiologist, wedding headliner, the human embodiment of everything my parents valued. Me, I worked my ass off in commercial real estate development, made decent money, bought my own condo, stayed out of trouble, but I might as well have been a ghost at Christmas. Literally, I stopped appearing on the family holiday card when I was 12. That's not hyperbole. It was just Jude's face on the card. When relatives asked, my mom would say they were highlighting Jude's acceptance to med school. The next year, it was his residency, then his fellowship. There was always a reason why I didn't count. Jude got a new Audi when he finished residency. I got a $50 bill in a card for college graduation. When I bought my condo with no help, Mom asked if I was sure I could afford the mortgage. Jude got an engagement party with champagne and catering. I mentioned I was dating someone and Dad literally changed the subject to ask Jude about one of his patients. It stopped hurting after a while. I stopped expecting love, recognition, even basic decency. I just built my own life quietly, successfully, and waited. Not for their approval, for the day they'd need me. Because I knew it would come, and it did. Jude's wedding was a 300 guest spectacle in a hotel ballroom downtown. I wore my best suit and sat in the back. Not with the family, not even close. I was back there with people who probably thought Jude was an only child. And then came the moment. My mom stood up to give a speech. And with the smirk on my dad's face, I should have known something was coming. She raised her glass and said she wanted to talk about family. How some children are gifts, and others are lessons. Then she looked directly at me and said, I only have one son. That thing standing in the back is just a mistake I made 29 years ago. The room went silent, and then, they laughed. Not a few awkward chuckles. Full, table slapping, head thrown back laughter. Sabrina, Jude's new wife, threw a glass of wine at me and smirked like it was performance art. My dad stood up and said I should have been given up for adoption. Jude grinned. I stood there, wine dripping down my blazer, my chest hollow. I wiped my face with the napkin, smiled, and walked out. In the rain, I stood by my car and let the sky wash off the rest of the wine. Then I went home, I showered, I sat at my desk, and I made 3 phone calls and sent 1 email. You see, while my family was busy celebrating Jude, I was busy keeping records, 4 years of them, because if they were ever going to treat me like I didn't belong, I was going to show them exactly how much power the mistake really had. The first call was to Dad's business partner, the man who'd been with him 15 years. I told him everything: dates, hotels, the name of the woman my father had been secretly sleeping with, his wife. The man didn't believe me at first, so I emailed him the receipts I'd collected, literally. Screenshots of text messages from Dad's old phone. Copies of hotel folios I found in his car the year I borrowed it for a weekend. I'd had all of it for years, just waiting. Second call: Dad's primary lender, the bank that held the mortgage on his office building. I told them to double-check the collateral paperwork on his latest round of financing, specifically, the claim that their house was unencumbered, except it wasn't, because 2 years ago Mom took out a secret second mortgage to cover losses from a pyramid scheme. I'd found that out while running title searches for comps in their neighborhood. Public records don't lie. Dad had signed a loan agreement swearing the house had no other liens. That was fraud. I said they might want to pull those documents. Quietly. Third call: Sabrina's actual husband. Yeah, husband. See, I run a background check on her when Jude first got serious. Just instinct. Turned out, she'd gotten married after college to a guy in Oregon and never filed for divorce. They just drifted. But legally, she was still married when she walked down that aisle in front of 300 people. I tracked him down, told him what was happening. He was stunned. Said he'd been trying to finalize things for years, but she ghosted him. Last move was the email. I sent it to the woman who recruited Mom into her wellness melem. Detailed how much Mom had lost. CC'd 40 women I knew Mom had been trying to drag in. And I copied the FTC's pyramid scheme complaint line. Then I waited, didn't text anyone, didn't call, just lived my life. Closed a big real estate deal, went for coffee, slept, and then 67 days later my phone exploded. 89 missed calls, 127 unread messages. The fallout had arrived. Dad's partner pulled out of the company, took half the clients. The bank called in the loan. The house was underwater. Foreclosure was imminent. Mom had a full breakdown, got hospitalized. The melem sent her a cease and desist. Sabrina's ex showed up with a lawyer and filed bigamy charges. The medical board opened a review. Every message from them was the same. What did you do to us? Please call, we're sorry. So I read every message, every single one, and then I blocked them all. 3 days later, Jude showed up outside my building. Not a text, not a call. He was just there, sitting on the steps like a kicked puppy in a tailored coat. When I pulled into the garage, my phone buzzed. We need to talk. You can't ignore this forever. I almost turned around, but no, I wasn't hiding from anyone anymore. He stood as I walked up. He looked like hell, unshaven, dark circles, eyes wild. Good. I just want to talk, he said, following me up to my door. This has gone too far. Too far? I said. Mom called me a mistake at your wedding. Dad said I should have been given up. Sabrina threw wine on me. And now, it's gone too far? He sighed, like I was being unreasonable. Then he said it. Look, I know what happened at the wedding was inappropriate. But what you did, it was nuclear, disproportionate. Disproportionate. I laughed, loud. He kept talking, said Sabrina might lose her medical license, that the bigamy charge was triggering a full hospital review, that her career could be over. She was suffering. Sabrina threw wine on me, Jude, I said. She stood there laughing while your parents gutted me in front of 300 people. She married you while still married. That's not bad luck. That's criminal stupidity. He clenched his jaw. You're being vindictive. People are losing jobs. Our parents are losing their house. This isn't about you anymore. You could have just taken the joke and let it go. A joke. He called it a joke. Did you laugh? I asked. He didn't answer. That's what I thought. Then the pitch shifted. Jude said Dad was ruined. Business gone. Cash flow evaporated. Employees quitting. He needed a loan. Fast. And guess who was the only family member with good credit and liquid assets? You want me to co-sign for Dad? I asked, stunned. It's temporary, he said. You'll be paid back. With interest. I stared at him. You want me to help the man who said I should have been aborted on microphone because the company he built with my inheritance just collapsed under his own lies? He's still our father, Jude said quietly. No, I said. He's your father. To me, he's just the man who made sure everyone knew I was disposable. He flinched. Then he dropped the last card. Mom's in bad shape, he said. Hospitalized. Anxiety attacks. She's barely eating. If something happens to her, that's on you. And that's when I lost it. Not loud. Not screaming. Just ice-cold clarity. Tell me, I said. Did she apologize? Once? She's not in the state of mind, then we have nothing to talk about. I told him about the 4 years I spent collecting receipts, waiting, planning. I told him this wasn't some impulsive tantrum. This was justice served cold. You pushed the wrong person too far, I said. And now you're shocked there were consequences. He stared at me. You're sick, he said. You need help. Nobody plans revenge on their own family unless they're a psychopath. No, I said. But apparently, your family calling you a mistake at a wedding is normal. He left. But not before saying the entire family knew what I'd done, and that they all thought I was a monster. Good, I said. Let them know what happens when a mistake learns how to win. 6 days later, my phone rang. It was Grandpa. I hadn't heard from him in 3 years. My dad's father, the quiet man who'd always sat at the edge of family gatherings, polite, distant, more like a museum exhibit than a person. I half expected him to chew me out, but he didn't. He said, I want to understand what happened, so I told him. Everything. The years of favoritism. The wedding. The speeches. The fallout. The phone calls. The receipts. He listened, didn't interrupt once. When I finished, there was a long silence. Then he said something that made my blood stop cold. "You're not the first son your father's thrown away." He told me that when my dad was young, before he met my mom, he had a child from another relationship. A boy. Not some teenage mistake, but a real relationship. A real son. And then he just walked away. Why? Because, according to Grandpa, the boy wasn't promising. He wasn't going to be a doctor, or a legacy, or anything worth bragging about. Your father, Grandpa said, only values what makes him look good. Children aren't people to him. They're accessories. He paused again. Then, I've changed my will. Your father's out. Everything now goes to you and your Aunt Anna. I sat there, stunned. I didn't do this for that, I said. I know, Grandpa replied. That's why you're getting it. The next morning, all hell broke loose. Dad found out about the will, screamed at Grandpa, accused me of manipulating an old man, said I was poisoning the family, and then Aunt Anna called. She's always been neutral, sweet, a voice of reason, but now she was worried. Not about Dad or Jude or Mom, but about the people caught in the crossfire. Eric, she said. There were employees, people who worked at your dad's company, 12-year veterans, parents, people who just wanted a paycheck. They're collateral damage, and that stopped me cold, because I hadn't thought about them. People like Celeste, Dad's office manager for over a decade, a single mom with 2 kids, now unemployed because of the mess I'd triggered. They didn't humiliate you, Anna said gently. They didn't laugh at the wedding. She was right. So told her to send me Celeste's or some. I called my boss the next day, pitched her as a potential hire. She got the job. Starts moneying. Not because I'm helping my dad. Because I'm not him. Meanwhile, Jude doubled down. Started calling me a psychopath in family group chats. Said I was a danger to the family. That I'd destroyed everything because of hurt feelings. He's trying to turn relatives against me. Building his little loyalist faction like we're in a Cold War. Thanksgiving, but not one of them, not a single person has apologize. Not Jude, not Mom, not Dad. They just want the fire put out, without admitting who dropped the match, and I'm not doing it. Because if you light the fuse, you don't get to complain about the explosion. Happened on a Tuesday, late afternoon. I was wrapping up a client call when my receptionist buzzed in, her voice tight. Eric, your mother is here. Again. I felt my jaw clench. She'd already tried twice this week, once at my building's lobby, once outside the garage. Both times I refused to engage. Tell her I'm unavailable. She's already past reception. She just walked in. By the time I stepped into the hallway, Mom was pounding on my office door like she owned the place. Her hair was disheveled, no makeup. Her blouse was misbuttoned and soaked from the rain. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. My client was still in the room. I had to physically walk her back out, apologize profusely, and reschedule. The look on my client's face? Mortified. Humiliated on my behalf. Security was already on the way. They found her sitting on the curb outside, weeping, refusing to leave. She shouted as they led her out, "He's killing me. My son is killing me." That night, I gave up. I told her to meet me at a coffee shop down the street. Neutral ground. No scenes. She arrived already crying. She said she didn't understand how things got this bad. That she never meant to hurt me. That her wedding speech was supposed to be funny. A clever metaphor about surprises turning into blessings. I stared at her. You called me a mistake. Mom, in front of 300 people. You're taking it out of context. There's no context that makes that okay. I was trying to say unexpected things can be beautiful, she insisted. Like repeating the lie would make it true. I just shook my head. Then she shifted, pivoted, gaslit. You're too sensitive. Always have been. You focus on slights instead of gratitude. We gave you a good home, an education. You never appreciated it. That's when I realized something awful. She believed it. In her mind, I was the ungrateful one. Not her, for publicly disowning me. Not Dad, for laughing. Not Jude, for standing by. It was me, for not smiling through the abuse. So I asked, did you come here to apologize? Or to tell me I'm lucky to have been insulted with shelter over my head? She went quiet. Then came the guilt trip. They were losing everything. The house. The business. Jude couldn't support everyone. Sabrina's legal bills were crushing him. They were going to end up homeless. She begged me to help. I asked if Dad had apologized. He didn't mean it. Drunk words or sober thoughts. I said. She snapped. This is all your fault. You ruined Sabrina's life. You told on her. You could have kept your mouth shut. That's when I stood up. I told her, Sabrina committed bigamy. Dad committed fraud. She lied and got us into debt. I didn't create their mess, I just stopped covering it up. You're selfish, she said. You care more about revenge than family. No, I said. I care about respect. And you burned that bridge years ago. Then I brought up Dad's other son. She went white, asked how I knew. I told her, Grandpa told me everything. And also, he changed the will. She stood, furious. You've poisoned him. No, I said. You did. I just showed him the smoke. She left, muttering, you'll regret this. I finished my coffee, went back to work. Then came the next surprise. That evening, I unlocked my front door and froze. My father was sitting in my living room, waiting. He was sitting there, on my couch, like it was his house. My heart pounded once, then settled into a cold, even rhythm. I didn't shout, didn't panic, just closed the door behind me and said, why are you in my home? He held up a key, my spare, the one I gave my mom 5 years ago for emergencies. I needed to talk, he said. Man to man, you broke in, used a key, that wasn't yours. He ignored that, patting the couch beside him, like I might just sit. I've lost everything, Eric, he said. The company, the house, my reputation, your mother's falling apart, Jude's drowning, Sabrina might lose her license. And it all started with you. Long answer. Started with me? I said slowly. Not the affair? Not the loan fraud? Not the illegal marriage? He rubbed his face. We need to stop this. It's gone far enough. I stared at him. Then why are you here? To ask you to fix it. He tried to fake vulnerability. Said he was sorry about the wedding. That the speech went too far. That he never meant to say should have been given up for adoption. Happy now? He asked. That snapped something in me. That's not an apology, I said. That's a hostage negotiation. He sighed, then shifted, like Jude had, into condescension. You've always been like this, he said. Needing validation, reassurance. Jude never needed his hand held. I laughed. Cold. Jude got funding, support, applause. You handed him the world and told me to earn scraps. That's because Jude saves lives. Eric. You move paper around. You don't make a difference. And there it was. After 29 years, he finally said it out loud. I wasn't enough. Because my job wasn't noble enough. Because I didn't make him look good. You ran a commercial development firm, Dad, I said. Exactly what I do. If my work doesn't matter, neither did yours. That's different. I built something. You work for someone else. I offered to work for you. You told me to prove myself first. You quit your first job. Because I got a better offer, which proves my point, he snapped. No loyalty, round and round it went. Every argument I made, he twisted. Every example of favoritism, he justified. Every ounce of pain I shared, he reframed as my fault for being too sensitive. Finally, I told him to leave. He refused, said he wouldn't go until I agreed to help, said if I didn't, he'd sue me for slander, for intentionally destroying his reputation. I pulled out my phone and calmly called the police. I have an intruder in my home, I told dispatch. He used a stolen key. He's refusing to leave. My father stood, jaw trembling. You'd really have me arrested? You had 29 years to act like a father. You used none of them. 15 minutes later, he was still arguing when the officers arrived. They asked if I wanted to press charges. I looked him in the eye. Gave him one last chance. He glared. You're dead to me. Then press charges, I said. They took him away. I gave my statement. Then I sat in silence. My father had broken into my home, cried, lied, insulted my work, threatened to sue me, and still managed to believe he was the victim. Called Anna after, told her what happened. She was horrified. Not shocked, just heartbroken. Eric, she said. This is spinning out of control. It spun, I said. Back in September, she said family members were fighting. Grandfather wouldn't speak to Dad. Cousins were picking sides. Thanksgiving was turning into a civil war. I didn't say anything, because I couldn't fix this. and I didn't want to. Thanksgiving came and went without me. I stayed home, ate takeout, watched old movies while half my extended family tore each other to shreds at grandfather's. Aunt Anna texted updates like she was reporting from a battlefield. Your dad showed up anyway. Grandpa told him to leave. He refused. Grandpa called the cops. Again. Half the family walked out with your parents. Cousin Jenna cried. Uncle Ron screamed. Group chats are imploding. Chaos. Meanwhile, I was warm, full, and peaceful. In a condo I bought with my own money. Sitting on furniture I picked without input from people who called me a mistake. 2 days later, the final confrontation came. All 4 of them. Dad, Mom, Jude, Sabrina. They cornered me in the lobby of my office building, claiming to have a meeting. Security let them in. I should have turned around, but I didn't. I was done running. We sat in a conference room. I told the receptionist, if I'm not out in 30 minutes, call the police. Jude started. He always does. We're here to make a final appeal. This has gone too far. Dad said they'd agree to family counseling if I dropped the restraining order and helped them financially. Counseling? I asked. So you can discuss calling me a mistake instead of just apologizing for it? Mom said I was being difficult. Sabrina, who had still not apologized for throwing wine at me, said she was innocent in all this. I reminded her. Bigamy isn't a whoopsie. We went in circles. They blamed me for the consequences of their actions. Tried to twist reality until I was the villain, and they were the misunderstood victims. So I asked, do any of you believe what happened at the wedding was wrong? Silence. Then Dad said it was a joke that went too far. Mom said I was difficult. Jude said I should have laughed it off. And that was it. I stood up and said, we're done here. They begged, bargained, threatened. I called security. As they were escorted out, Mom turned and hissed, I wish I'd never had you. I smiled. That's the first honest thing you've ever said to me, and I meant it. The next morning, Grandfather called. He'd heard everything, the ambush at my office. The final words my mother spat on her way out. I'm proud of you, he said, for standing your ground, for not letting them rewrite the story again. Then he told me something final. The will's done. Official. When I go, everything's split between you and Anna. Your father gets nothing. I didn't know what to say. He did. It's not punishment. It's clarity. He chose his image over his family. I won't reward that. Anna called later, said the family's broken beyond repair. That there will be separate holidays now. Cousins who won't speak. Years of relationships turned to ash. She asked if I was happy. I said, no, but I'm content. Content that I stood up for myself. Content that they finally felt what it's like to be small, ignored, powerless. Mom and Dad? Homeless, jobless, living in Jude's guest room. Jude? Drowning in debt, overwhelmed by 4 lives on 1 paycheck. Sabrina? Her reputation's in ruins. Her ex-husband wants back alimony. Her hospital still hasn't closed the review. And me? I'm still here. In my condo. At my job. With my peace. They wanted 1 son. They got 1. And now, he's handling all their problems. So no, I don't forgive them. I don't owe them that. I gave them 3 phone calls, 1 email, and the truth. They gave me 29 years of silence. This ending? It's mine. Every word of it, and I wouldn't change a thing.